Hey everyone, welcome to the Game Talk Show. We are making our uh, re, I guess, relaunch, so to speak, after a brief hiatus. So super excited to be here and talking with a very special guest today. So, give us just a couple minutes for us to get my co-host, Dr. JPEG from Non Fungible Arcade, up here, and we'll get some people watching the stream, get our viewers up a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and bring up our guests and kick it off. So, just give us a few minutes, and we'll be ready to go. What is up? What is up? JPEG, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. All right, man. Well, super happy to be up here with you and kicking this thing off. We've got a
Go.
super awesome guest today. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring up John Chainsaw and Jay from the Metalcore team.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, how's it going?
Yo, what's going on, guys? Great to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you guys. Man, this game is awesome. Been following you guys for the longest time and really excited to get into it. But, John, we got to ask you first, man. I know I'm wondering, JP's wondering, I'm sure everyone in the audience is wondering, how did you get a kick ass nickname like Chainsaw? You got to tell us.
I'm not legally allowed to say that. That's
Oh,
Okay.
that makes it even more cool.
Let's go, man.
Awesome. No, so we're just super happy to have you guys here. Metalcore has had our attention for a long time, but let's kind of just kick it off with some brief introductions for the two of you guys. I'm sure you each have your own individual stories that are super interesting. Chainsaw maybe a little bit more so, but he's not going to tell us about the name. So we'll give the mic to Jay first and let him like redeem himself a little bit. Maybe he has a cool nickname we just don't know about. But yeah, Jay, you want to tell us a little bit about your background, kind of how you got into this industry, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Jay. I'm the social media manager for MetalCore, and I work at Studio 369, the development company who's making the game. And my in-game gamer tag in MetalCore is Trunkletron, and that came to me in a dream. I don't really know what it means, but when I Googled it, there were 0 results. So I said, hey, this sounds like a good name. Nobody else took it. I've been in Web3 since around 2017 and got my start working for a layer 1 infrastructure company out of France called Arc. And then started getting more into the Web3 gaming side of things around 2021. And here I am working on the Metalcore team on the Web3 side. And we're also collaborating heavily with Immutable as well on that. Just a short intro.
Yeah, no, that's super awesome. All right, Chainsaw, go ahead and take it away, my friend. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm the design director at Studio 369. I got my start at Midway Games here in Chicago. And from there, I worked at a few small studios like Darkside Games, where we worked alongside 2K games to help work on Borderlands, other titles like that. I worked at Foster as well as People Can Fly for a bit, and yeah, I'm here making Metalcore at 369.
Very, very cool. Yeah, and so you have like traditional game experience, right? So you come more from the Web 2 realm, which I think is important for game studios, that they don't just have crypto experience, right? They have like real world experience working with, and I love Borderlands, like it's one of my favorite games. So that kind of thing and that kind of experience is really exciting. Um, Cool. Yeah. So, JPEG, how do you kind of want to run this? I think we had a few questions lined up, so I'll kind of give you the mic back, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Midway Games. The first thing that comes to mind, it's like burned into my brain, and I think of God. What is the game that was Rampage? Dude, that was such a fucking fun game and such a throwback. That's what I think of when I think Midway Games, man. So maybe before your time you were there, maybe not, but that was such an awesome game when I think of Midway Games. But yeah, I'd love to start off with just an intro to metalcore. So for anyone that's listening that maybe it's been a while since they've heard about metalcore, maybe it's their first time learning about metalcore, I'd love to get an intro to the game itself and the game loop and really like what the approaches you guys are taking with this, because I think it's phenomenal, it's unique. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a combined arms shooter. So yeah, infantry, mechs, airplanes and tanks, and the loop is you're a mercenary on this planet. There's warring factions. You're going out to the planet to collect resources and grow kind of your own power base. It's an opportunity for the players to make their mark upon this planet. So the main loop is to go out, adventure, complete missions, partake in PvP battles, and this large open areas, gather loot, and then extract that loot out. So we're not like a hardcore extraction shooter, but we do have elements of that where you're, whatever loot you have on you, if you get killed, you'll drop it where you're at. So working as a team is good to make sure you lose progress. But the ultimate goal is, to craft these mighty war machines and take them to battle.
Awesome. And is there a requirement, like how does someone jump on the game? Is there a requirement to hold an NFT or, buy like $1 million plot of virtual land? Or like how does someone get into the game for their first experience?
Yeah, so the way we approached it was we wanted to really think about, the best practices of the Web 2 free-to-play world, which would be, anyone can join in and anyone can play, and anyone can craft and create these NFTs. However, it's only when you want to extract them out, you don't want to sell them or trade them or rent them out to other players, do you need to engage in the Web3 side of things. So at that point, you're like, all right, you built all this infantry, you built this tank, you don't use it anymore because you built a mech and that's way better. It's at that point, when you want to sell that or trade it to somebody, we'll ask you to attach a wallet to it and start engaging in the Web3 side of things.
Awesome,
so yeah, the goal is to get players playing. Yeah.
Yeah, this art is awesome, man. I really like it.
And then I just wanted to add a little bit on top and just mention that, Chainsaw touched on a really key point that we have here with our offering with Metalcore combining with Web3, because we want to keep it optional. We want multiple pathways for players to get to these assets. And I, for one, in my research in Web3 gaming and Web3 over the years, like I've seen games coming out that really lean too heavily into the Web3 side of things. And for example, they might gate in-game items behind NFT purchases. Like, for example, you can't get a certain gun in the game unless you buy an NFT of that gun, and there's no way to craft it. There's no way to earn it just by playing the game in a normal fashion. And that's a stance that we do not have here at Metalcore. We want to make sure that there's multiple options. People can play the game and not engage in the Web3 side of things, but still get the full gameplay experience. And then if they so choose, switch it over.
Got it. So, digging a little bit deeper into like I guess what kind of genre would you consider? So you said extraction shooter, right? So is it like round based play? Is it like an open world that's forever living? Is it like an MMO style? Like in terms of genre, what are you kind of aiming for here?
Yeah, it's closer to the goal is to hit this sort of living open world, experience where you can engage into events that are occurring at different times. But when you're not doing that, you can wander around, complete missions, and collect loot and stuff. And so I'd say it's closer to that side of things, with elements of all the best that we can sprinkle in to make your experience great. So yeah, so things like
Yeah.
having PP events on timers. We want to have events like uh, world bosses that might appear every so often that everyone can team up and fight.
Mhm.
We also want to have sections of the world that are PVE only, so you can go there and team up with people of different factions to complete missions and quests. Some parts of the world are PvP only, where everyone is part of their factions, fighting over one central large, intricate PvP sort of mission, and then other areas which are just more simple PvP, like event pops up like CTF or domination that might be in a certain section of the world, and whoever shows up to play that shows up to play that. So sometimes you might get steamrolled by one side, but
Yeah.
sometimes you call your buddies in and your faction mates to come in and help out and make it more. I think that there's fun bits like old World of Warcraft battles at Hillsbrad, right, where it's like one guy
Mhm.
gets killed and then their friends come in, and it turns into this huge, crazy, like melee. You can you tell stories about 20 years later.
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea with the open world events, is that you might roll in there, you take some points, five guys rolling with big mechs, they take you out, and you're like, well, I'm going to call my friends, they have big mechs, and so it's just an
Mhm.
escalation of battle in this open world area.
Got it. So yeah, it's meant to be pretty immersive then. It's like, you kind of are striking that balance between a full, like, I guess, well, I guess it's just meant to be immersive, right? So that's kind of the angle, is that you want to feel like you're a part of something that's alive, and it's not just like loaded into a Call of Duty deathmatch and then once it's done and you reset to the main menu type thing. So it's a very living, breathing type of environment. That's super cool. Um, so, in terms of kind of what inspired you guys to get to where you are now, can you tell us a little bit about the origin story behind metalcore, and kind of, I know it's been around. I remember hearing about metalcore what feels like ages ago. So, you guys have been building for a while. You've made incredible progress. Kind of, what is the origin story to how you guys came together, and what your ultimate vision was for this?
That's all chainsaw right there.
um,
That's not me. That's not me.
yeah, so Studio 369, a lot of us are veterans. A lot of us have worked together in the past,
Mhm.
and so this opportunity came around to sort of create this mech war shooter game, and I think we all latched onto that. A lot of us, or I think all of us, were heavily inspired by PlanetSide 2, as far as like we want to see these large scale battles, a lot of people and vehicles and infantry fighting around, taking territory and stuff. So I think that was the main, I think, jumping off point. Was
Mhm.
this idea of we want to capture that kind of feeling as well, of like cool combat with lots of players. Yeah, and from there, all of us are inspired by many different science fiction universes, and so we pulled bits and pieces we liked out of those, and sort of made this, this sort of mishmash of cool ideas of all these different factions being lost in space and crash landing on this planet, and then sort of how do you turn that into something that isn't just a session based game where you roll
Mhm.
around to each other and then you're done. Um, so yeah.
You're kind of touching on a point here that I wanted to include. How important is lore to what you guys are building? Right, like I'm on the website right now. By the way, if anyone watching right now, if you haven't been on the website, it's phenomenal. Tons of great imagery and information. But you have a story page, right? So this tells me that lore is pretty important to what you guys are building. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and what you're trying to accomplish through that level of immersion?
Yeah, well, I mean, lore is one of the hooks, right? So if you have
Right.
great gameplay and good lore, that's an extra reason to dig deeper into the experience. Yeah, so we wanted to make this feel like a real universe. Like here's a series of events that got us to the place. Here are the things that are going on right now, and some of it is secretive, like you don't know why things happened right away. And as you complete missions in the world, there will be storyline missions sort of sprinkled through, and you'll get introduced to a little bit more about the lore, a little bit more about why things are the way they are on the planet now, and then ultimately, the experience will end with an arc of like, oh, this is what's been going on the whole time. We need to stop this, or else things are going to get exponentially worse. So then this gives players something to, I think, latch onto beyond the as much fun as it is to do the core gameplay loops of PvP and
Hmm.
gathering and crafting. An additional layer of engagement of I can unlock this storyline and be part of this experience, I think helps with the retention of the players, and also with just the longevity of making this world feel like you're part of it, and that there is something beyond just
Mm-hmm.
what you're playing right now.
Oh yeah, I'm a sucker for lore personally. I think it's super important because you find characters in a storyline that you can get attached to. You think about great IP like Star Wars and Harry Potter. Anything that they do, essentially turns into gold. But it wasn't just putting out cool games or something that really was creating that experience and creating that relationship for players. It was really the IP. It was really the brand that they made and the story that they told, and everyone wanting to get behind characters and feel that attachment to these storylines that I think really gets people thrilled about the experience. And I love that you guys have taken that approach with this, because there's a lot of kick-ass games. Like when I think about like when Titanfall first came out, it was so like groundbreaking because of the way that they set it up, where you had mechs and you had like a PvP shooter, but it was the first time you had the experience. But with you guys really diving into the lore and the story, I think it gives people something to get excited about outside of the game loop itself.
Yeah, ideally, yeah, for sure. And I think people love telling stories. That's one of the oldest things we've done as a beings of early man sitting around fire, telling stories to each other about the elk that almost killed them. I think part of that is part of our experience, what people like to do. I think, and it also allows players to identify with something beyond the cool mech or cool gun or cool whatever. That's all great. It's like, oh, cool, I got this great thing, or I built this crazy awesome tank. But like, oh, but I also completed this cool mission for this dirt farmer out in this rock over here, and old Jed's a great character, and so it makes you feel like you're part of that world a little more.
So as far as that kind of attachment to the lore goes, there isn't a separate single player experience, right? Like there isn't a campaign that's also going to be included, or is that part of the cards, or is the campaign basically something you're doing in that open world and you participate with others to do it? Is there any separation there, or is it,
No, yeah,
kind of a living, breathing?
yeah. The idea is that at certain progression points in your leveling up, you will have access to these sort of storyline missions that you can go out and do, and depending on how we want to approach, some of them would be in the open world, whereas if you're like, all right, we need to go to this location to do this thing, that becomes obviously more difficult because you have to deal with the unknown factor of other players. And once they figure out the missions here, they're gonna, if it's in a PvP zone, that's going to be a hot spot where people are going to camp and fight. And that may be something we want. Like we want this to be, this is a dangerous thing. Everyone's kind of got to go through it. It may reinforce players teaming up or joining baronies, which are in-game guilds, to go complete these missions and progress that way. And others may be in the PvE areas, in which case it's more of a co-op experience where everyone can try.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, was like, can I team up with my buddies and like a private group to go to the PvE areas, or am I kind of on my own? But it sounds like you're kind of leaning into that, because I think a big thing that is a big reason why I love gaming is being able to just jump on with the boys, like with my group of friends. I'm a super busy guy. Like I love single player games, but like the amount of time that I have to commit to just sitting down for myself is different than like if I'm sitting down and it's a social experience and I'm being able to play it with others. So that was going to be my next question, but sounds like you guys are thinking in that direction. So that's super good to hear.
Yeah, for sure. We want to make sure people have all the ways they want to play. We want to make sure that even if you want to engage in PvP, I think we were inspired a little bit by the idea of the EVE Online security system that like. Right, maybe near your base, there's a little bit of light PvP areas that aren't very populated, so you're probably not going to run into any players, but we'll amp the rewards up a little bit because you possibly still could. But if you don't want to engage in that at all, you can hang out in the PvP zones or PvE zones rather, or go to the PvE server and just complete missions on there and gather loot and have fun with your friends.
So will you be able to build your own? So it sounds like you'll be able to build your own base kind of in this world. Are there restrictions there with where you can build and stuff like that? One thing that comes to mind, I don't know if you've played Generation Zero, but in Generation Zero, you can only build bases in like certain predefined areas. But in your situation, if you're able to base build, can you kind of pick and choose where you want that to be, or are there limiting factors? Sorry, I'm kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but I'm nerding out.
Yeah.
So,
Right now, every player gets a garage, which is kind of like their home base, and you can.
Okay.
The plans are to allow an upgrade path for that. That's more along the lines of just upgrading your sort of your sort of account progression. There are plans in the long term for allowing land ownership and then sort of modifying things on that land, but those are specific parcels and kind of whatever there is there. And the goal now is to allow you to upgrade things, maybe put some turrets on there, but not a whole lot of like in-depth base building.
Put a turret around an arcade. So I got to build an arcade on my land, but I'll put some turrets around it, and we'll have checkpoints and stuff. So, and we'll have chainsaws for sure as well. So.
Yeah. So, JPEG, where you want to go from here? I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah. So I'd love to know, what you guys are looking to accomplish with MetalCore. So obviously you have this story-driven game. You have these mechs that you can build. You're going to have land that people will be able to purchase eventually. But what is the ultimate goal with MetalCore coming into Web3? Because this sounds like this is a game that would be highly successful as a traditional game as well. And with your experience at Midway, I'm sure that it's really plays into that. But why Web3 for MetalCore? And again, what are you guys looking to accomplish with this game?
Well, at least on my side, I think it's pretty cool to look into the way that MetalCore is set up and how it differs from other games, because any game could be a Web3 game. There's ways to design economies. There's ways to introduce collections into games. There's a way to deploy the technology into the game, But I think that Web3 is better suited for certain game types. And when you look at MetalCore, you're looking at a persistent world, PvPvE, faction-based game. So you'll have situations where there's a game running outside of the game. Who's in your squad? Who do you want to bring into the faction? Who's recruiting into their faction the fastest? Who's building what we call baronies, which are groups of soldiers within a faction that could be, for example, an arcade barony, and you're recruiting players into MetalCore and they're all fighting for arcade, right? So when you look at that type of a gameplay mechanic, and then you look at Web3, you notice the similarity of how Web3 is highly based on community. It started with the altcoin communities, with Ethereum and Binance Coin and all that. Mm-hmm. Then it grew into the NFT communities. You had like the CryptoPunks community and the Bored Ape Yacht Club and all these other things, right? So, the fact that these communities are already set up, and add on top of that gaming guilds, major guilds like YGG or Avocado, you really see this ecosystem that can interface seamlessly with a game like MetalCore compared to a more session-based or, 10-minute match or, some other type of game like that. MetalCore is this, like you mentioned, living, breathing ecosystem that can marry together with the entire Web3 gaming industry, the entire Web3 gaming overall community very well. So we're interested in seeing that goal come to fruition.
Yeah, it's also interesting just being, it's a new technology. It's a new space to grow into. It's a new way to, see what we can offer to players that, traditional Web 2 doesn't offer players. That sense of ownership, I think is probably one of the things that intrigue me most of like, if I don't want to play this tank I built anymore, I have an option. I can give it to somebody. I can trade it or sell it legally without having to go through
sketchy websites.
Sketchy websites to sell these things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that you hit on a great point there, because a lot of times there's these certain subjects that we get into in Web3 gaming, and there's buzzwords that are thrown around like metaverse or ownership. But I really do think that is a super valid point that you make, because if you're spending a lot of time in this game, if you were an early fan of MetalCore, if you're here in the beginning right now watching this and you've been participating and growing with this game in their community, and then in 5 years from now you still have skins and mechs and weapons and different experiences that were only available right in the beginning, that's going to have a lot of value. You think about I'll give you as an example, like Pokemon cards. Like a Charizard back in the day, like, when it was still a rare item, it was like $100 at a card shop. You could go and get a Charizard in like, the year 2000 for $100. And you fast forward now, they're selling for 30,000, upwards of 100,000 plus, just for that same card. So I think that it's the time, you being able to say, hey, I've been here since the beginning. I'm an OG. Look at these skins, these weapons, these mechs, these things I have, and having value in those. And then you can either, again, have it where you can sell it, right, and be able to reinvest that money into the MetalCore ecosystem or do what have you with that. And then also, as a streamer, I think that there's a tremendous benefits that are probably overlooked. But Scott Herman, shout out to Scott, he brought this up as a point. We were talking to Johnny about their game WAGMI, and the ability as a streamer to be able to give these things away. If you have multiple mechs or something that, are kind of like the extras, like you're talking about, that maybe you want to exit, you said, give it to a friend. But there's so much opportunity as a streamer to have benefits and perks where people can tune in, watch you stream, take part in the activity in the event with you, and then potentially win something where you're able to give that to them. You can't do that right now in traditional games. So I think that that's something that's beautiful. And you look at this game, speaking of beautiful, I mean, come on, you can't not get excited about being able to run around like this and, trample over people and blow them up and all
That's
the
what
good
it's
stuff,
all about.
man.
That's literally what it's all about.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to hear that you guys are very focused on kind of the ownership aspect, right? So like Web3 is great for giving ownership back to the players. You and others fortunately have learned from some of the mistakes of other really, spiral to the bottom type economies, like Axie and others, in my opinion, that we're able to learn from some of those mistakes, and you guys aren't creating this you're creating a fun game first that just gives ownership back to the players, which I think is really important because you're kind of striking that perfect balance um, between DeFi with extra steps and pretty pictures and an actual game that people want to play. I mean, look at this looks like incredible. It reminds me of other AAA games that I've played. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Titanfall. Like Titanfall was like a great game, and this looks just like that experience that I would get from like a Titanfall game.
Yeah, of course, you nailed it, JP. And I'll just add that for me, when I'm playing this game, I also tend to get some Halo vibes, like with the infantry gunplay style is a little bit more of a classic Halo feel, which I absolutely love. And then also, the combined arms, really brings to light the Battlefield franchise. While some of them are great, some of them are controversial. Like the actual idea of a massive battle going on where you can at any time get into various vehicles and even aircraft is like a really cool idea. I was always attracted to that. I think MetalCore is doing that really well. And then shout out to KO in the chat saying, write that down of what makes a good Web3 game. Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. And then just in closing, I just wanted to briefly bring up that, it's really important that when you're talking about make the game fun first, in 2021, everybody was talking about, Axie Infinity blowing up, which was no undue credit to them because they were first movers in terms of integrating NFT collections into a game that, everybody could pick up easily, everybody could get started easily, and play to earn was very strong in that game. Now in 2023, we're speaking a lot more about play and earn, or Web3 operating in parallel with Web 2 and the quality of the game. It's easy to do that now because in 2021, there were no games that the fun was first. It was easy to make a play to earn game with fewer dev resources that didn't have, like the epic Unreal Engine, scenarios and advanced gameplay mechanics. Now, with these shows and expos that are happening like 3XP, we just recently attended that, and we had our booth there with Immutable. You're seeing Web3 gaming in its current state, which is starting to look a lot like Web 2 gaming in the highest echelons. So the fact that we can sit here and talk about putting fun first just goes to show how far the industry has evolved in only 2 years.
I agree with that. I think that's the big thing. I just posted a thread today that talks about, how to break that and get away from the infancy stage of Web3 gaming, where it's, like focused on the number go up crowd, but how do we appease to gamers where it's fun first, but there also is a unique experience where you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you take a gameplay like what you guys are doing at MetalCore, and JP and I both were like, hey, that reminds me of Titanfall. That was a super fun game. So now I have an easy pitch. I can be like, yo, JP, you got to come play this game, MetalCore. It's a lot like Titanfall, but we can actually own the mechs, and it's amazing. You got to jump in and onboard people that way, because now if I'm talking about it, if I get value out of playing the game, I'm able to share it with friends. That's really how this is going to grow, because just trying to shill Ponzi tokens to your friends, a number go up crowd, that's not what is going to, help us redefine gaming and really the utility of Web3. So I'm hyped, man.
Well said.
Yeah, there's definitely some similarities, and it's interesting how fast that those hurdles have been crossed in this space now. I think just from learning from past mistakes from Web 2 free to play. Web 2 free to play early days was just numbers go up. There was no games there. It was just click buttons and ads and earn in-game tokens or give me $5 to make your progress go faster. And the bottom fell out of that eventually. Eventually, you started seeing things like World of Tanks and War Thunder and other games coming through that are like fun. Those are fun games to play, and they're also monetized. And then now it's ubiquitous, right? I think whether you just sort of need to go through those little hurdles early on to understand, oh, wait, we can have an economy like a Web 2 free to play game that works, and onboarding that works the same way, and be successful with that.
Yeah, I pulled up this image from your guys' Twitter. So everyone in the chat, make sure you follow them on Twitter. They're posting some really cool stuff. But I mean, just look at how great this looks, right? Like this is in game, and it just looks great. And this comment cracks me up. This touching grass in this count is going outside.
Who is that? Is that Prof Pressure? Is that Prof?
Yeah, Prof.
Yeah,
so
that's great. He's so great.
It's just hilarious to me that just after looking at some of that game footage, it really does feel like you're in this open world. Like some of these games, you're on a path where there's scenery to each side, but like you're stuck on this path, right? And it seems like with your guys' game, it's a very open experience. You can kind of go where you want to go. If you see, that mountain over there, or that plane over there, you can, take your mech and go over there and explore. So that is the kind of experience that I think a lot of gamers are looking for right now. So just, really great to hear that is the direction you guys are going. Are these mechs fully customizable as well? Like, so the mechs themselves are NFTs, correct? And then are you able to customize them and kind of make it your own, or are there different types or like classes of mechs, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, right now the way we're looking at it is, if you're familiar with BattleTech, the Inner Sphere mechs were kind of this, they didn't really know how they worked. And our universe is kind of the same way, where you find these blueprints and you build them, and this machine called the Fabricator will just create these machines in their current construct. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that when you build a mech, let's say like you build one of our Gladiator mechs, it has its own loadout. It has its armor upgrades, its melee weapons, its flamethrower, or whatever it has on it, and that's the loadout for Gladiator Mark 1. And there are 3 variants per each type of mech chassis. So if you don't want, so you can sort of hunt down different variants of each chassis. The customization comes more in the side of how we want to do the tech trees, where since you've got an armor upgrade on the Gladiator, maybe you have a sensor array built into it and some kind of drone ability in it. Those will appear in your tech tree. So as you're teching up, you can, in the world, you'll find, this is a sensor array that fits into a Gladiator. And so you'll be able to slot that into the tech tree and then increase the utility of that part of your mech to increase its sort of stats. And then on top of that, obviously skins and decorations. So we want to make sure we can add that on there. In the long run, I think we would like to get to a point where mechs are fully customizable. But I think the first iteration is sort of this idea of this sort of curated, this is the best version of the Zephyr, this is the best version of the Gladiator, this is the best version of the Tamagiri. And that's what will be created from the blueprints.
Very cool. Then just to draw a comparison to people who might be asking that question surrounding what is the similarity between other mech games and MetalCore, is that the current state of the customization is a little bit more simplified in MetalCore compared to something like Mech Warrior, where like you can't like change like the actual power plant or like the feet of the mech or like equip something like that. But being a combined arms game, there's like a lot of different systems that have to be functioning and polished and working in harmony. So
Right.
when I'm playing metalcore, like I've played all these other mech games, and when people walked up to us at like TwitchCon and PAX West, all these Web 2 gamers who love mech games like Mech Warrior and Armored Core, and they were like, how much customization is there? And then I gave them my answer, and they said like, actually that's kind of okay, because when I was playing metalcore just now at this demo, I was like thinking about the other mech games that I love and enjoy, but I appreciated how it was more run and gun and less, sit and plan and customize and then gun, because there's so much more game going on besides just the mechs. Like as Chainsaw described, there's huge map, there's infantry going on, there's aircraft going on, there's talent trees, there's XP, there's looting, there's crafting. So to also have like a fully simulator-esque mech customization tool, seems more down the line, as Chainsaw mentioned. But I'm okay with that. Like I'm cool with the mech situation right now. I just wanted to lay that out. Okay.
Yeah. As it is, even with customization, obviously, we want to retain the idea of each of these mechs and infantry having a role, right? And so that's kind of what that curated build is that you're a scout mech. All right, well, you're not going to have super heavy armor and gigantic guns. You're going to have better sensor systems. You're going to be fast moving. You might have better shielding, but lower armor, stuff like that. So I think that type of stuff is where we want to sort of start from. And, even when, if we actually go through more customization on the loadouts, I think still keeping, all right, well, you still can't put giant, ridiculous cannons on your scout mech because it's just it isn't built to hold those things, So there's still gonna be rules to follow based on that type of stuff.
So how do you prevent, or I guess in this experience, right? How do you make sure it's balanced well? So, for example, like when you think about like Overwatch 2, right? Like the tanks are just so OP. Because you went from Overwatch 1, you had 2 tanks, now you have 1, and they're just so OP, right? And that experience has made it unique with how teams work together. And essentially, okay, let's focus on taking out the tank and the other team, and then we'll just, we'll trample them and drag our nuts all over them, or whatever you want to say in a context of gaming. But let's say that JP and I are on the ground, Chainsaw, you and Jay are up in these mechs. How does that play out for us as players? Is that a frustrating experience? Are we able to engage them in battle where, maybe JP has a rocket launcher, we can take out one of the legs?
Yeah. How
do you guys balance the gameplay there?
Yeah, I think that there is some expectation of if I'm a dude on the ground, even with a rocket launcher, and a 17-meter tall mech rolls by, I'm probably not going to do too terribly well against it. We do offer, most classes have some kind of special ability that allows them to probably get out of trouble. Everyone can sort of build these travel vehicles like the bikes that are very fast. So if you are looting something and a armored column comes by, you're like, let's get out of here. You can hop on your bikes and scoot and shoot. The other side of it is also, we want to play around with sensor systems and what mechs can see and not see, right? So infantry are probably not high on the priority list for a mech. They're going to care more about other tanks, airplanes, and mechs that can really do serious damage to them. So the range at which they can sort of sense infantry running around them may be shorter than they would sense, tanks. So you may be able to just get out of dodge just by laying low, and then maybe if your side does have mechs in there and you're on infantry, you can lay up ambushes against tanks or hit them from behind with your heavy lasers, and it may not do a ton of damage, but it may distract them enough that they lose focus on something else. So you still have roles to play, and I think it's not.
And maybe a strength in numbers situation, right? Like if you have a squad of soldiers on the ground that can ambush like one mech that kind of wandered off from the group kind of thing. So there probably is like some levers you can pull there too. I mean, I'm saying that because I'm totally imagining like JPEG wandering off and in his mech and me and the boys just like attacking him with our
taking, bro.
just
you
totally
ants. You're done.
The other side of it is things like tanks and airplanes are cheaper to build and maintain than mechs are. So if your tank blowing up, it costs less to repair it than it does a mech. And so, there's more of an opportunity. A mech player be like, even though I might be able to take those 3 tanks, if I don't, it's going to take me, this amount of time gathering resources to repair it, or I need to suck resources out of my vaults to repair this mech. So there's that balance you take too. If your team loses a bunch of expensive mechs, when your squad comes back around, they may not have all those expensive mechs the next time. So
So is there a risk of loss? So I guess where does when I say risk of loss, I guess I mean financially. Is like if you own an NFT, can that NFT be blown up and burned, or is there always the ability to kind of take back and repair a destroyed mech?
yeah,
No,
you'll never lose an NFT permanently.
Okay.
You'll unless you choose to do so.
Hmm.
Through various crafting reasons, you'd want to do that. But yeah, if you lose it in the field, you'll respawn back at your base, and then the only thing you lose is sort of your in-game whatever you've collected in your inventory. So if you collected a bunch of stuff and you die, that will drop where you died, and you'll go back to base with it.
So can I loot from the enemies I destroy, like the stuff
Yes,
they've collected? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yes.
Let's
So there's
go.
element too. So there's a reason to hunt other players.
Yeah.
If you see them coming out of like a high level refinery, you're like, they probably got some pretty good loot on them. So hunting them down and killing them is something you want to do just to get their
I mean,
crafting.
I'm just gonna camp out these high these areas and just wait for some of the weaker guys to leave their high XP zones and take
that
them
might
out.
not
You
be an
could, you could
uncommon strategy. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could teabag them afterwards, right? So after you kill them, and they'll see it as like the countdown. That's an important part of your strategy.
Oh man. I thought of something to add with the balancing aspect. That the map and the game objectives also play a role. So when you look at the open world and the main objective of the PvP, for example, which is to control the map and control critical areas and buildings, you're going to notice that in order to achieve that goal, you're going to have to get out of your vehicles most of the time. So, you might be in a building capturing a critical point, but the mechs, even though they're so powerful, they can't get you. Like that guy in that mech, or that girl is going to have to get out of their vehicle and enter that building and try to stop you from exerting control of that area. So the way that the map is set up and the way that the objectives are set up help to bring balance so that infantry is not out there just getting stomped all the time. Like they have all these different options of what they can do. And even when you look at things like two-story advanced bunkers, like they have interior areas that you can hide in and shield yourself from the onslaught of mechs. You could also like distract the mech enemies so that your boy in the Raven aircraft can swoop down with the homing missiles and like finish it off. Like there's all these different things you can do. I think like Matrix 3 is a good example of that because you have the dudes in the mechs, right? That let's call them exosuits in the Matrix 3, right? So they're in the exosuits and they're fighting, but then you've also have people that don't have exosuits, but they're like traversing the tunnels. Like they might be like restocking people, or they might be like taking out some other critical points to get victory. That's all kind of worked into the game mechanics.
So this is very much a team in like strategy style of gameplay that we're talking about here now. That's super interesting.
Yes.
So question, so can you like just straight up just like GTA someone's mech? You know what I mean? They leave it like sitting on. Is it locked up, or can I just come up and pull up and just we distract JP inside the bunker, and then we just come in and we steal his mech? How does that work? Or do you need keys?
Not at this time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I argue that's probably good. That's probably fair.
but yeah, I mean, you might see entire careers made by certain vehicle types or even certain specific vehicles. Like you might have somebody in your barony or in your squad who only uses a Rico tank, and they're like one of the best players in the entire game at Rico tank, and they never get out of their Rico tank. They never get into a mech. They never fly an aircraft. They're like, I'm Rico tank guy. Let me know where I need to go and let me know what I need to kill, and I will go there and kill them. And then you have other players that are like, I'm never going to get into a mech, and I'm only going to be infantry. I'm focusing on capturing critical points. I'm really good at PC mouse and keyboard FPS gunplay, and let the other players be in the vehicles, but I'm going to be on my feet at all times or using my jet bike to get from place to place because that's how I want to play the game. Like there's just so much game and there's so many options that players can take to get their own experience. So you could name like 7 or 8 games and you could have a similar and in our opinion, a better experience of that game in MetalCore. And it's only a small portion of what you can do in the entire game.
That's super cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm just imagining so many fun. Like, it sounds like the game or the kind of squatting up with your teammates and like being really strategic about how you do things is going to be paramount. And I just love that about what you've built, because I'm just imagining like, we have one guy on the hill with a sniper, like watching the entry, and like, you have two other guys that are like really good on the ground that go in to like capture a point. One mech is like watching the surrounding area or whatever. So just imagining so many fun ways that you can work with others to like achieve certain things. So that's just
Yeah,
super cool.
yeah, and squad comp, like you mentioned, is it's important. Like having your medic to make sure they can put AOE heals on everybody. Having your engineer repair your vehicles. Even the vehicles, having a repair vehicle to bolster your vehicle forces when you're pushing vehicle battles. Like all those things are are important. Have scouts so you have eyes, so your artillery can actually see stuff hidden beyond their sensor ranges. So
Yeah.
it's a fast paced game. It's not like a Counter Strike or World of Tanks slower methodical tactical game. It's much more fast paced, but I think those elements are still important. Knowing that I can target guys really far away. Running and gunning is still just as important as making sure I have the right people on my squad to overcome the challenges I got.
Very cool. So I think we have just a couple more questions, and I think we're uh, kind of timing this just right. So one other question that I had was kind of what's kind of the future vision for your guys's platform? Like, are you imagining or are you creating this to be a grand IP where there's going to be like multiple different titles that come out of like the same universe? Is it going to kind of be the same title that evolves over time with updates and expanded regions or new areas? Or are you guys just happy with focusing on kind of the construct that's been created thus far? Is there kind of a balance there or a plan that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, we want to grow this. I think D-Nick and I mentioned this the first time we spoke about the game was to grow the Metalverse, right? Was the idea that, this, IP and universe should grow and be in different areas, like even the comic books, novels, that'd be great too. Other games, and also on the other side of it too, also growing and expanding. This version of MetalCore where we're adding new lands, adding new missions, adding new vehicles and infantry. So, I think both are things we want to go towards. And I think creating this place where the IP can grow and live is paramount.
Do you envision focusing on aspects of interoperability with other game universes that are being created, or is that kind of in the plans? And again, this can be super early discussion. You guys are focused on building what you have now, right, and shipping a really quality AAA game. But in the future, do you kind of envision that kind of interoperability with your assets, or will I be able to take my mech into the other side, or something like that? Is that in the cards, or is that not something you guys are interested in?
Well, when you talk about Web3, you can't not talk about the interoperability aspect of it, and we've already seen some examples coming out in the space of, multiple different NFT collections, for example, being able to exist in the same game. Now, we've been working diligently with our new partner Immutable to, move through the economy design, the Web3 integrations, and, getting that all activated as we move through 2023 and beyond. And it's definitely possible to have integrations like that, especially when you have player-owned assets. You can just detect them when they log into their account. You can detect what they have, and it also plays into the partnerships worldview that Web3 has. It's all about partnerships right now because we're a small space and we're growing to take on a very large incumbent space, which is the traditional gaming industry, which is like many, many billions of dollars and many, many millions of players. So right now it's like a cool idea to talk about having integrations, where different game integrates into our game, but also you have to think about the implications of, the balancing. Like, this is what Chainsaw's in charge of, right? Like, what does it mean if you put XYZ other game asset into MetalCore, and how does that play into the gameplay, the dynamics, the power, the loops and stuff like that? So it might be like visual cosmetic stuff only, like maybe if you have a Metal Punk NFT and you have a special helmet in MetalCore, like your Metal Punk will appear like on your helmet shield or something like that. Like, that's something that's like definitely possible for sure. But there's always a wider conversation about like when in-game items merge together, like how does it impact the gameplay if we were to go down that route? But Immutable's been great. I mean, we really
Oh
like
yeah,
working with them for sure.
we love the guys at Immutable. I think that was a wise choice for a blockchain for like a game that's focused on being a game, because it's very there's no fees to like transferring the different things within the blockchain. So um,
Love that.
JPEG,
Yeah, I just want to add in there real
yeah.
quick. Just I think having a helm that pays homage maybe to an NFT community that you're a part of. It could be
Mhm.
something where, if you see yeah, let's just go with apes because it's something everyone's familiar with. If you see another person with like an ape helm on or something, that might be someone that you'd want to go in raid with and do different things with, just because of that correlation there. Because community is so strong. It's something that we do and do well at NF Arcade is partnerships where, we understand that a rising tide lifts all ships. And, just like you'd mentioned, Jay, it's definitely, taking required like collaborative effort to make sure that we're finding the right games and, combined as a space promoting those and really showing that, hey, this isn't just, Axie in the $625 million, bridge hack, but this is actually
Mm.
really like high quality, really enjoyable games. You cannot sit here and watch this and not just say, holy shit, that looks like a ton of fun to play, man. We're watching you, Shunkeltron. We're watching you go around and just
Yeah.
Yeah.
murk people, man. And it looks like a ton of fun and something that I really know our community to get behind. So I'd love to chat with you guys after the show, talk about setting up a game night, and just getting in the game and having some fun.
Yeah, for sure. And it's equally cool, if not more so, to highlight other players having fun while they're killing me in the game, So I'm not just putting together like Trunkletron smashes everybody montages, but
Listen, bro.
it is a cool point to make that our trailers and our promotion videos are all made and edited using the live servers and real players. So we're telling the community, we're telling the space, we have a game. The game is real. When we say we have a game, we have a game. It's too easy when you combine the world of gaming and the world of Web3. It's too easy to lean on the promises that both industries make when projects are early, right? We've all been victim to video game developers being like, this game's coming out, it's going to be sweet, and then we have to wait way longer than we wanted to. Or we've all been victim to, Web3 projects that are saying like, we're going to release X product that's going to be sweet, and then it's like not sweet, or it takes way longer than we thought, or it's still not ready yet. So when we release a trailer like something like this, we're saying like, look, we've got the game. You can play the game. We have actually a playtest coming up sometime in July. And if you go to our pinned tweet at Play MetalCore, you can click on our waitlist link and you can like play in the game. If you end up in the trailer, I'll make sure you look good. Okay. That's my prime goal. Okay.
Yeah, someone's got to be taking the L. So, it's like when you watch the UFC highlight reels, you're like, oh my gosh, man. You don't want to be forever ingrained on someone's highlight reel, but you know what? Someone's got to hold the L.
Yeah, like people on the Twitter feed, they're thinking like, man, this Junkletron guy sucks. Like every time there's a clip, he's dying, bro. Like, no, the other players are having fun. That's the idea,
Let's go, bro.
What is kind of the so I know you guys have kind of a guild system. You're encouraging guilds to get together. Obviously, it's a very squad focused type game. Can you just briefly tell us a little bit about that? How you've designed how guilds interact? Like, if there's a guild leader or a guild member that's watching this video right now, like how do they get involved as a guild? How do they get recognized and involved and how does their guild interact with the game? I guess either now or in the future. In a kind of is there like a special way that a guild is recognized and used within the game, or is it just any group of friends can be a guild?
I mean, there's the want to split apart the idea of the in-game guild versus out of game guilds. So as far as in-game guilds go, yeah, the idea is that you can start a barony. And we've gone through various stages of how that was been designed, and whether or not you need to own land or not own land, or if you do own land, it's a different kind of barony than if you don't own land. But right now, I think the ultimate goal is yes, players should be able to create a traditional in-game guild with calling baronies with a guild leader and the ability to have a guild vault, and you can trade your NFTs to each other, or maybe rent them out to each other, things along those lines. And then having also like, benefits towards, when we eventually go towards the, territory war stuff, claiming territory as a guild, as a barony, you get to plant your flag on that territory, and that becomes, you get some passive bonuses for, XP gain and resource collection and those type of spaces. So, yeah, we definitely want to, explore the whole idea of, what does it mean to actually, very similar, like what would it mean in the real world if you're, a medieval knight or a baron, and
Yeah.
you go to this land, you're like, all right, we took it over, our flag's here. What does that actually mean for you?
Yeah.
Usually it just means income, right? And then guarding your territory. So that's the main things right there. And then for out of game guild stuff, I'm not entirely sure. I think Jay, you might know more about how we're integrating that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now we're working with early supporter guilds like YGG SEA, IndieGG, Avocado I mentioned earlier, Breeder DAO. So these large scale external guilds that have been building their communities over the past few years or more, they have the opportunity to represent their guild in the game. Now we're working on some features that make that easier and more apparent. Like for example, on the docket are things like putting your custom guild logo, like of your external guild, on your stuff, like on your infantry unit or on your tank. Like you can be in the game, and then people will see that that logo and maybe want to know more about that particular guild. So the same is true with baronies too. If you have a barony, which is basically the same thing as a guild, but it's inside the MetalCore ecosystem, you'd be able to do that type of stuff in the future. But at the current state, we have some features that really help out with community aspect, spreading the word, and educating people when they're in the game. Like two that I can think of right now are in-game procs voice chat. That's a tongue twister right there. But in-game procs voice chat. So like when you can run up to somebody in the game and talk, and they will hear you, and they can talk back to you in the game if they're standing near you, which is a really cool feature. And I think I recall in the launch of Battlefield 2042, they didn't even have voice chat in the game, and everybody was like really upset about it. And they're like, "Why isn't there voice chat? Like we need voice chat because it's too confusing. There's too much going on in a game as big as Battlefield. You need to be able to communicate with each other, right?" So we have that feature in there. Okay. We also have a squads system in there. Right now, it's a more basic level, but it plans to grow along with the barony system that's getting fully integrated in later on. But the squad system that we have in right now allows you to link up with other people that are in your faction that are also in the game server. So you'll be able to form groups of up to, I think right now it's about 4 people. And then you'll be able to do things like see exactly where they are anywhere on the entire map, like the entirety of the map. You can see exactly where they're at. You can also communicate with them without distance coming into a factor. And you can also do a couple other things I can't really remember right now. But the cool thing that I like about in-game procs chat and squads and things like that is that if, for example, let's say hypothetically, right, Arcade had a barony inside MetalCore, and you had people with the Arcade logo running around, on their vehicles, on their tanks, on their infantry, or they had Arcade in their gamer tag, right? So then people are running up to you like, "Thanks for saving my life, bro. Like, by the way, what's Arcade?" And you're like, "Oh, it's this platform that helps gamers get more educated and into Web3. And, we have weekly shows that happen at this time." And so like you're playing the game, right? Like you're fighting dudes and like blowing stuff up while you're promoting Arcade. Like that's kind of like a cool idea to me. It's a cool thing. So like this type of approach and way we can build community from inside of a game and build brands that exist outside of the game, that I think is very attractive to anybody in Web3 space. And so that's something that we're looking at right now that we have.
This headshot is brought to you by Arcade Earn. I like it. Sounds good.
This headshot is or this revive. Like while you're reviving, you have 4 seconds to promote your brand. Like while you're getting them up off the ground. Like that's great. I love that. That's funny.
I have one quick follow up. I just have to add. So I love what you've said about guilds, baronies. So how important is like an esports type competitive experience to what you guys are building? Is there like you have guilds right now, right? Mostly like Web3 guilds. Are you envisioning a world where like the phases and TSM and Cloud9, like these esports teams get involved with what you're building, and kind of what does that landscape look like for an esports play, or is that really not the focus here?
I mean, I think eventually, I think there's definitely a great space for that. I think we have this kind of the concept of different classes and trend balancing things across all the factions. So you have that balanced state. I think for esports really to flourish, though, probably would want to create a more session-based experience for that type of experience, which is not outside the bounds of something inside of metalcore. Like,
Right.
Head your HQ and queue up for the next, session-based battle sequence.
You could build an arena in the
Build
open
arena
world.
in the world,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and you just sign up to get into the fight whenever it starts. So I definitely think there is space for that for sure. And there's things we've talked about in the past of like, a lot of our abilities and a lot of our team comp, and the idea that it feeds really well into the idea of an esport. I think really it's just creating the space within MetalCore to do that.
Yeah, I'll add that in our initial demo, like when we first premiered gameplay itself, that was at PAX West in Seattle. I think it's Seattle. And we had a 5v5 local area network demo. And in that demo, we had a small map with a King of the Hill game mode that had neutral vehicles on both sides that people could just run and jump into, something similar to like a Halo big team battle arrangement. So not necessarily like an RPG approach where you're leveling up your account and you're looting and crafting stuff. So like when you're looking at esports modes, like as Chainsaw mentioned, it's important to have equal balance on both sides when the match begins, so that skill can be the primary determinant factor.
Right.
So like in the open world environment that the game is now, that's not really super feasible. Like you can't really, unless you like physically privately like decide on rules, like outside the game, like in Discord, and you're like, all right, everybody promise to like only have one medic on each team, like that. Everybody promise to like not have Shiva and then like stomp everybody, like so. The esports modes, like Chainsaw mentioned, we've shown that we can do esports mode.
Yeah.
Like we did a full functioning esports mode, and like Prof Pressure, who's a great content creator in Web3, he was there at TwitchCon when we also showed that, and he was like, "This is definitely what's up. Like esports players are going to absolutely love this." So like it's definitely within the purview of the development to have that option in there. Something that I'm also excited about because it's something that's really relatable for most gamers. Like games like PlanetSide, they might not necessarily be as well known as some other games like Apex Legends, where like exactly what it is and how it works and everything like that. So like to have this unique gameplay approach that MetalCore has, which expands far beyond just one game like PlanetSide, it has many different facets to it. It can be hard to explain to gamers from time to time. So to have an esports mode that's simple and easy to understand can hook gamers in and then drive them into the open world and the more RPG aspects of it. And then I'll close with after you said totally, I completely forgot the last.
While you're waiting,
it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, while that's coming back to you, I just want to say congratulations to you guys. Like you built a game that is gameplay first, that is fun first, where I can run around, I can trample over people, I can blow shit up, I can steal bases, I can loot you. Like that's what it's all about. So sure. I love that you guys were able to tie that in and just grow from there. You've built an amazing IP, an awesome gameplay experience, and super excited for everything you guys are doing. For everyone listening, where should they tune in? What are you guys having coming up next that they should be aware of?
How do you get involved, right? I mean, like, what NFTs should I buy if I'm like totally fresh to all of this? Like, what's my entry point? What do you recommend?
That was a very well crafted, conclusatory statement, Dr. JPEG. So I remembered what I was going to say, but I'm not even going to say it because it's not as cool as your like
where we are
let's
now.
Wrap this up thing. So I'm just going to go into what you should do next and what people should do. So important notes about the NFT situation that we have going on with MetalCore. Very cool situation. We have a infantry collection out right now on OpenSea on the Ethereum main network, and we're working with Immutable to launch and deploy additional collections like the aircraft collection, the mech collection, the tank collection. And then we're working through the best way to address the infantry collection existing on the Ethereum mainnet. Like maybe we're going to do some kind of snapshot and airdrop onto a higher performance network running by Immutable and in partnership with Polygon, or maybe we'll do some kind of bridging thing. But as of right now, you can go out and grab these infantry NFTs right now. And they're an assortment of different characters. At this time, the characters are inside the suits in the game. So if you get the NFT of the character, it's going to be a suited up infantry person in the game. But you can check out everything that's going on with the infantry NFTs. Also, right now, the game is in development still. We're moving through our alpha stages. As I mentioned earlier, alpha 3 is coming up sometime in July. There's a waitlist on our pinned tweet for that. So at this time, there's no direct integration of the NFTs into the game itself. However, you can unlock and explore and fight and train with the infantry subclasses that you can see on OpenSea. There's just no actual detection of you have this, here's that thing in the game at this time. So I wanted to make that clear, and then, I'm just really excited about what we're doing with Immutable and moving forward with the Web3 roadmap. So, Saw, yeah, you can take it away from here.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Yeah, the game, the game's great to play. We have play tests regularly. I think, Jay, you have information out there. You can always join the Discord to find out when those play tests are, and super excited to get this game out to everybody as soon as possible.
100%.
Yeah, we'll make sure that all of the links to everything is in the kind of description or follow-up comment or whatever to wherever people are viewing this. But yeah, just people that are watching right now, join the Discord, get involved with the community. If they want to join a guild, are there ways for them to do that, like through the Discord? Should they just join the community and then they can find other people to squad up with from there and like start building relationships with? Is that kind of are there like places in the community to do that currently?
Yeah, great question. Sorry, Chainsaw, please go ahead.
I was saying, in Discord now, like people are already teaming up into faction-focused, groups, and I know at one point they were trash talking other groups. It was pretty.
Oh yeah, I love that. All right, love it. You got to get in there just for that entertainment, then.
Gotta, yeah. I was about to say that exact thing. Yeah. So the best place to make friends is on our Discord at metalcore.gg/Discord.
Very cool.
And just to wrap it up, to like kind of pay it forwards, guys. Jay, Chainsaw, just a real quick. What's a Web3 game that you guys are looking forward to outside of MetalCore?
Oh, the question of questions. Can I even name the game? Okay, yeah, I'm going to name the game. I'm going to say for sure I am very excited about games like Phantom Galaxies because I like Transformers in space idea. Transformers in space. What else do you need? What else do you need? Very psyched about that. Also, I really like Spider Tanks over in the Gala ecosystem. Pretty cool stuff, right? Reminds me a lot of like a Dragoon MOBA in StarCraft 2 custom game. I thought that was really, really cool. And then on the Immutable side, I'm looking forward to the Bornless a lot. It's this horror-based kind of like PvP style horror survival game. And they had a 2v2 demo running at 3XP in our booth. So I thought that was very, very cool. And then, there's this other game called War Riders, which I think is kind of cool too. That was the first Web3 game I ever found. You always have a soft spot for the first Web3 game you ever found. I think everybody knows that.
As long as it rug you.
The high school sweetheart, right? I'll pop into War Riders from time to time also.
I think, Jay, you've covered all the games.
So, let's go, man.
Yeah. Perfect.
Love it.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. We really appreciate it. It was good to have you guys, and everyone watching. Make sure you jump in to MetalCore and are following everything that they got going on.
Absolutely. Yeah,
thanks very much for having us, guys. And I just want to say that credit must be given to Arcade because your reputation precedes you. I've been following Arcade for a while in this space, and the great work that you're doing, educating gamers, getting people the correct information, the right information they need, is very needed in the space. And there's always a huge temptation to just lean into the low-hanging fruit, like what's going to make people rich the fastest, and like, oh my God, don't miss out on this. It's going to make you a millionaire. Like, it's so easy to lean into that, right? But what the space really needs is actual information, actual education, actual help. And Arcade's been providing that very well for a long time. So I just want to give you like many kudos on that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And JPEG, we you know what we have to say about NFA. I mean, we absolutely love it. So I'm just super glad that he and I are able to get together and do these, and keep an eye on MetalCore, guys. I think it's going to be really awesome. So thank you all. We'll see you next time. And again, all of the links to everything that you need will be in the description below so that you can join these the Discord and get involved. Thanks, guys.
Excellent.
Thanks very much.